Shah Rukh Khan's character in Swades is what Rustam Sengupta's life story reminds me of. Living in the global straitjacket, fat paycheck, MNC job, and abroad, every Indian mother's dream match for her daughter's shadi. However, a native village trip made him leave all the material comforts to work for his people at the grassroots level, every Indian mother's nightmare. Boond, his social enterprise and an NGO, aims to provide solar light, clean drinking water, and pest control to 1 million people by the end of 2012. And with his Boond kits, of which he will talk about, we know he can reach his goals. He has lived and worked in 5 countries across the globe and holds a master's in electrical engineering from the University of California, Irvine, besides an MBA from INSEAD. A warm welcome to Rustam Sengupta.
Where I took a stand and said that I don't accept. So this is me again, just to give myself an introduction. I'm not a comedian like Papa CJ, unfortunately, but in the top left-hand corner is me in school, in St. Columbus School, right around the corner in, next to Gol Dakhana. And that lady over there in kind of the bluish shirt is me. And that's kind of weird, but that's kind of how my story of I don't accept started, where there was no girls. Columbus is only boys' school. So there was no girls to do the part of the lady. So they found 2 of us who kind of didn't want to fall into convention, and we ended up becoming heroines of the play in only boys' school. The other picture is of me in Alaska, completely out of shape, trying to do a 6-hour trek, because it's supposed to be cool. That again is a story where, you know, people do weird stuff, and it's going to be precursor to what my talk is about. Finally, 2 more pictures, one in Peru, doing the Inca hike while breaking my arm, and one actually playing with a tarantula spider. Just this is my brief introduction. Some people like to call me an MBA or MS or whatever, but the brief introduction is that I grew up as a person who didn't like to conform. And so does this thing. So as I was mentioning before, this is how a lot of people in India live. And the little girl out there on the picture on the bottom left is a girl whose name is Rashmi, and she actually studies harder than I ever did in life. But she doesn't study in a normal light. She studies in something which looks like the one on the top left, top right, which is this weird kerosene sort of arrangement where you light up the kerosene and you get a little light, little more than the candle that I was trying to show. It's kind of a very, very different experience if you're staying in a family like that. It's very different because you see the urge. You see the urge that sometimes we don't have, which is in there, the spark that is in there, the spark that wants them to move their lives to a next level, to aspire for something big, while going through all the challenges that you and I don't even imagine. It's a very compelling story because this story is not happening very far from us. It's happening just about 150 kilometers away. It's just happening about maybe 20 kilometers away from a main road which was built with, you know, World Bank money. So it's something which is very personal. It's something how people live. This again is a picture, and a lot of people give me a look, why do I show all these things? I show these because we are too thick-skinned. We talk about bloody change, but we are too thick-skinned to do anything about it. A few white people in the audience look at this picture and go like, whoa, I didn't see that on the way here from Defense Colony. But that is all pictures, the 2 on the right are pictures in New Delhi. The one is next to Tilokpuri in East Delhi, and one is close to Okhla. And this is how half of the people live. This is how your maid lives. This is how the people who kind of, we call them the Indian dividend lives. I worked in an investment bank. That's negative dividend. That's going to be a crowd. That's going to be a mob. And this finally is, if I take it to a next bigger, you know, sort of a macro level of where we are really. It's a very interesting picture, one of my favorite pictures, and I'd like you guys to spend like 10 seconds extra on it. This picture has this dark river kind of flowing through heart of India. It's very interesting. It flows through Rajasthan, Bundelkhand, Jharkhand, Bihar, Orissa. And the funny part is that this is not a river or a sea. This is actually the most populated part of the world. And what it really shows is all these 200 million people are living with so less light that Delhi and the border between India and Pakistan is seen, but their villages are not. 200 million people don't represent that on the map. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot accept that. And I cannot accept the FM telling me we are growing at blah blah % rate, but still seeing that picture on an every day-to-day basis. So what do? I go back and I think about it. So greater part of when we started Boond was spent in research. And what we really found is there's no lack of people, there's no lack of products, there's no lack of innovation, no lack of technology. What there is a lack of is the bridge, is the conduit that takes all these cool technologies back into where it's really, really needed. And that was kind of, it sounds like common sense now, but it was kind of an aha moment because it said that what the focus of people should be is not just to design and develop the next Facebook application. I mean, no hard feelings against people who do that, but is to actually develop or think about the bridge that can be created. So the problem that we put in one word was the problem of access. But the moment, bang, I started thinking that, I had the first challenge that came through. And funnily, it came through the education that I'd been to. Education in the West, education in India. It was that this is a government's job. This is a way too big job for a person. This is a way too big job for a group of people. You can do it on an impact day. You have this day when I was working Deloitte, you have this day where you go out and you do all these things and then you come back to your AC office and you continue life. So it's not your job. And that's what my education told me. And I didn't accept that. For the same reason that I didn't accept not having a heroine in St. Columbus, I didn't accept that. I said, no, maybe there is a way. So we said the way to do that is not to create more products or to create more financial channels, but to actually create entrepreneurs. Is to actually create leaders, not in an NGO beneficiary kurta-dhari way, but actually leaders who have confidence and the courage to work for their own communities. This is a picture in Manipur. This lady's name is Rose. She's unfortunately HIV positive, doesn't work for us right now. But she was one of the first leaders that we created. She was one of the first people who wanted to change the condition of the people around her. But the moment we started doing that, we hit another wall. And this was kind of a big wall because it's a stigma, it's a mental wall where all NGOs told me, tried to partner up with them and they said, rural poor are supposed to be beneficiaries. You are supposed to help them. I was like, I am 29, this guy is 54. How am I supposed to help them? He has more experience in life than I can put together. But no, the mindset was they are beneficiaries and that's how they need to be helped. We couldn't accept that either. So we decided we'll change it. How? We'll train the people. We'll see. We sort of followed the Bunker Roy model from Tilonia and we said we'll train people who conventionally don't look like entrepreneurs, who can't maybe come up to a TEDx speech and have 3-letter degrees after their name, but we'll train them on technology. We'll train them how to fix stuff. It's a very simple product. And we'll train them how to do accounting, how to manage cash. And that's exactly what we did. What we found is that for an entrepreneur, it's not just training, but what's really, really matters is the incentive that's provided, is why they want to take this high-risk position and change it. So our biggest learning was that fix the right set of incentives and people will spearhead and do tough stuff. So one of the incentives was the family of the person. And the family is really important. So we started interacting with the families. We started talking with them. We started staying with them in most cases. And there's few people of our team who regularly are there all the time. We started providing some sort of an insurance. We said, okay, if such and such happens, here's a network of people around you and you can be taken to the closest hospital or whatever. If you're in the police station, picked up for the wrong reasons, here's an iCard that can give you some identity. But most importantly, I think what we managed to give them, or what we really see that entrepreneurs need, is aspiration. And that's where, India is so divided because the Bharat really does not have a lot of hope. I'm sorry, but they don't. They vote for any bloody guy who comes and gives them a 500 rupee note. And the India, unfortunately, we talk of all these big words. So what we thought is give them some aspiration so that at some point, if not them, but their children can sit in a platform like this. The moment that happened, another funny story came up. People told me, well, people are not going to pay you back. Again, maybe they're not honest, maybe, nobody's going to buy your stuff. So what we kind of try to sell is sort of something like this. It's a simple solar lamp. It kind of hangs upside down in a person's village. It charges itself with a 3-watt panel, and it's very decentralized. It's cheap. Stuff like little solar bulbs. I have a habit of dropping everything, and things that can actually be small technological advancements, but actually help people's life. But people told me that they won't pay you back. The banks refused to give us any loans, and they wanted my dad's poor house and collateral. So we said, okay, let's think of some other things of let's try to analyze why people would not pay. And we found the reason people don't pay back, or the reason people have defaults, is not theirs. The reason is ours. We sell them shit. I have an Airtel phone, which was sold to me with all the deal, and when I call up the customer center, I don't get good service. These guys have been traditionally sold and resold products that don't have the basic things like servicing, don't have the basic thing any trust. You can't find the right guy. It's like buying an HDFC life insurance, When they sell it to you, they make you scared and think about death. And when you actually don't die and ask for the money back, they're nowhere there. And that's exactly the experience these people had, and they came out and told us, the boss, aap to chale jaoge kal. You're going to leave. Aapko kaun pakdega? I'll buy this, 2,000 rupee light or the 500 rupee light from you. You're going to leave. It's going to break. Who's going to fix it? And that's why people default. We found that there was a lack of understanding, lack of trust, lack of value. We found a lack of designs. We have more IITians, top IITians working in US designing good products for Americans and British and Western people than actually designing stuff for the village, which actually works. So we said there was a problem with design, there's a problem with not working with feedback. And we tried to do that. We tried to bring out more products, more services that inherently involve the community with that. That's a guy in a village, he's making dal bati with using our lamps. Then we finally went to investors and we said, it's about time we need some investments. And they said, are you kidding me? You're doing charity work, man. This can never be a business. You can never actually make any money off it. And they gave me a challenge of 10 lakh rupees. That's nothing. I mean, we had speakers who would build so much, but they gave me a challenge, if you make 10 lakh rupees, we'll talk to you, come back. Basically, shoo us off, right? We again didn't want to accept. So we said, we'll come up to defeat this. We'll come up with different kind of innovations. Innovations not just in product, but in the business model. If people can't buy the product, maybe they can bank on a product. Maybe somebody can go, pay a little deposit, take the light, use it for a while, then he can resell it to somebody or give it to somebody else and create sort of like a bank kind of an arrangement. Maybe there can be some innovative payment plans which are linked to agricultural cycles so that when he makes his produce, he can have a way of paying it back. Maybe we can use the mobile technology to actually show them videos in the last mile, sell products, or do servicing of some kind. So we started working with all that, and we survived. We survived, and we survived in a big way because that 35 lakh, though it's a small amount, has come for people who live between $3 to $5 a day, or between 50 to 200 rupees a day. So you can imagine that 35 lakhs to me actually is 35 crores if it was people like you. And that's huge. So we have survived. And there are 5,000 houses which have electricity, which have lights, which have people who are studying. There are 50 entrepreneurs who were nothing before, who did not really want to be anything before, who are actually now confident, and they even negotiate with us right now. And we have 11 as crazy, and thanks Neha for saving us till the end, as crazy people working with me, people who are from IITs, people who are from Oxfords and Cambridges and everything. They just want to give it a shot. Because the big thing about change is it's not going to come from up. These guys are old and they're over. It's not going to come from down there because they're not exposed. It's going to come from here. And, you know, I can look pretty today and make all these presentations, but the reality is there's a team of mine right now in Pali, in Udaipur, in Jhunjhunu, in Sikar, who are actually in this 45-degree heat. They're outside because they believe in it. And finally, you know, the government told me just freaking like 3 months ago that, it's great what you're doing, but nobody really cares. And I mean, I don't have a big answer for that. Only thing I can say is, 2 years ago they called me an idiot, and today they called me to TEDx. So people do care. And I hope people will keep caring and keep helping. So thank you very much. I would like to thank my parents. They're here today. They had a hard time understanding what I'm doing, so I got them along. I would like to thank all my friends, and I of course want to thank Neha. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody.
To the audience for any short, non-autobiographical questions, because we need to wrap up before the webcast of TEDx Change, for whom everybody is invited. It will be happening at the Gulmohar Hall, live from Berlin, and Melinda Gates, Theo Sovin, Baba Mal, Jeff Chapin, and Sven Giegold will be speaking. It will run a little late, so I understand if everyone cannot make it. However, it's at Gulmohar Hall at 10 p.m. Before that, I'd like to invite our speakers on the stage. So anyone has a first question?
This question is to Rustam. Rustam, of all the problems in rural India, why lighting? Why lighting as?
Why lighting?
Yes.
That's a good question. I mean, there's two reasons. One is sort of a social reason, and one is a business reason. I'll start with the business reason. Lighting is a very self-marketing tool. So you don't have to spend a lot on marketing that or advertising that. If you go to a village which has no lights, and you help one light switch on in one particular house, that self-propagates the awareness for lighting. So that's a very business reason. When you start a business, you want to keep your marketing cost or client acquisition cost low. So lighting is a very great tool. And of course, the social reason is that lighting actually has a lot of indirect benefits, which are noticeable only after you have lights. Like if you switched off the lights right now, one of the things would be we wouldn't know who's talking. And so both the reasons actually are, very compelling to start with lighting. We moved on to water also. Cook stoves, and anything that can add value to the people and is a higher quality product or service in a logical, proper price way. Does that answer your question? Because I can't see you, which is another beauty of light, because if you hit it on the eyes, you can't see half the people.
Anyone else here?
I think there's an additional benefit of the lighting side of things, which is you help with population control as well. Because let's be honest, sometimes if you turn the lights off, you're thinking, God, I can't sleep with this person, yeah. So I think that's a multiple thing that you're helping with.
Anybody else? No? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Papa CJ, you made a very good comment that आजकल बच्चों को थप्पड़ नहीं मारा जाता इसलिए. I want to ask you the same thing. Isn't he right? Aren't we doing that thing more often these days? We giving children gifts and pampering them for everything because lack of time, as you rightly say. But then combination of both is required, time and the spanking both, which we tend to kind of do away with because of our own guilt, I suppose, I think. Maybe I'm wrong or right.
I think I heard the question. I would say this. One thing I believe is, I believe a lot of parents and adults, we give children what they want, but we don't give them what they need. I think it's the difference. I think, you know, I've got a whole belief when I work with children, I believe there are 6 human needs of every child, and everything I do in my work is about looking at what's beyond the symptom. If a child is, you know, messing around or can't focus, that's the behavior. What's underneath that behavior? Why are they doing? What need is it meeting? If we know how to fulfill our children's needs, I believe that we can control their behavior. And I believe this, yes, pleasure and pain are powerful motivators, but children are very smart. Gone are the days where you say, have a chocolate and you get this. They're smarter than that. And gone are the days of you get a thupper if you do that. They're beyond that. I think the key thing is this, let's move to a country where we don't have to motivate our children, where they're motivated themselves, where they understand their own needs and how to motivate themselves.
I have a question for you. When you said a time and a spanking, were you talking about the children or the adults? Because I'd be very interested if it, you know. Just one more comment that, you know, I know that nowadays there's this whole thing that you can't beat kids and all, but what you can do, how old is your kid? Oh, this one. I think it's too late now. But for the younger parents, if you can't beat them, you can psychologically screw them up. Right? And I'll give you an example. Like when your kids are like 1 year old, 2 years old, take photographs of them in compromising positions. You know, like naked, holding on to a goat's private parts. So when your child becomes 15 and he says, Papa, I'm not going to clean my room. If you don't clean your room, that photograph is going on Facebook and your life is over. That's a suggestion, not for TEDx, of course. Now this is offline, no? We don't have to be all intelligent and all. That's your mom?
Papa CJ, couldn't get any worse. Non-me question.
This is to Papa CJ. So, I know your mother very well. And
you're not the guy who my dad wants to kill, are you?
So, she's very witty and she tells me all the time these non-vegetarian jokes. So, how much do you feel that the genes work?
The genes? Well, technically, there's a comedian who talks about his father, and he says that technically I came from his balls. So I don't know, I mean, you know my mom, so you'll be able to point out the similarities. But my mom is far dirtier than I am, and the kind of things she says I would never be able to say. I don't know if that answers your question. I think genes have a lot to do with it. Nature, nurture, yeah, this is a long funded debate. I mean, the kind of question this is, it wouldn't really help anyone else, so we can address this offline because they don't know my mom. And my dad will kill you.
So I have a quick question and a quick comment. So to Rustam's point was why light. So I have spent some time with the villagers, and the most perceptible difference which light makes is it prevents snake bites. So I've spent time with the farmers there, and you'll see that whenever they go to switch off their generator or switch on their generator, that is the time they're bit by snakes the most. So I've attended a few similar solar lighting campaigns, and that is the most, at least they save around 50 to 70 lives a month. That is what I've seen. And my question actually is to Rama ma'am. Ma'am, do you think Kala and Kalpana, like art and ideas, are challenged by modernity?
Challenged by modernity?
Challenged by how we understand modernity, or how, do you think
modernity?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard maternity. You know, the Britishers ruled us for 200 years. And that was the time that Indian culture was going through a catharsis. And even today, after all these years, Indian culture can never ever die. And as long as there is culture, there is art, and as long as there is art, there's innovation. So Kala and Kalpana, like you say, Kalpana and Kala go hand in hand. And nothing in the world can challenge it, for sure.
So is there a way modernity can actually play a positive role in spreading Kala and Kalpana?
Of course, because the Devdasi, or the dancer who danced in the temples 300, 200 years ago, she did Bharatanatyam. I do Bharatanatyam too, but I'm not a Devdasi. So, and I am a 21st century dancer. And what I do is completely contemporary. It is a traditional dance done in contemporary times. So there is no way that I can say that it is going to hold me back just because it is a dance form which originated 2000 years ago. All that is over, it's behind us. And now it is how I can take this dance form forward. I use my dance form to dance on AIDS awareness. I go to the villagers to teach them, to tell the women their rights on reproduction, their sexual rights, and the fact that they can say that they want to have this baby or they don't want to have this baby. And I use Bharatanatyam for that. So I think we need to just move forward with it.
This is to Mr. Gupta, Rustam, right? I noticed your point about the driver in your, I mean the two things, social change and marketing, the 2 points that you had made. So one thing I want to know, what is the leading driver in your, maybe in your mind, in your focus about your business? And secondly, what is driving you that at the end of the day, maybe say 10 years or 15 years down the line, what is going to lead you, what is going to make you more happy? More money or more social change that you see over there? I mean.
So this two, like you mentioned, there's two drivers. There's obviously the social driver and the commercial driver. I think when you have an organization, the guys who are on the base of the organization implementing it, they need to have a pure commercial driver. So my entrepreneurs need to be purely commercial in ways. Social motivation will not take them there. But as you sort of move up this pyramid of an organization, if it's a social enterprise, the driver starts transforming into a more social driver. So by the time you get on top, financial is more like sustainability. It's more like the money that you need to take your motivation ahead, but it's a very social driver on top. So I don't know if that kind of answers it, but that's the way that I perceive that if you build an organization, that's how it has to be structured. I don't expect the guy who's doing the last mile sale or the last mile technical installation or the servicing to be driven by a whole social motivation. But on the other hand, I want my zonal heads who are actually leading a zone to be very socially motivated so that they don't, get into the commercial ballgame. To the second question that you mentioned is, where do we see ourselves 10 years from now? I think the real key is, I think somebody mentioned here that money will follow. Money always follows. And you understand it when you're young, because when you're young, you study hard. You don't really study to think that, okay, tomorrow I learn well or not. You kind of do it, right? Because that's the right thing to do. I think if you have an organization where you just do it with the right thing to do, in a long-term picture, money does follow. So in a way that it is, at an early stage, it's a very social venture. I know as we'll grow, it'll become more commercial, there'll be more commercial restraints. But I hope, at least, that even in 10 years, the metrics that we show are primarily dominated by the number of people we reach and the kind of work we do than the kind of returns we provide to an investor or the returns or the bonuses that we take home. They'll of course be there in the same ballpark, but they should be just a part of it and not the whole part.
I just wanted to add to that. I mean, it's a very interesting question, and I think one way to look at it is, I'm a social entrepreneur and I often get asked all kinds of questions. Some are positive, some are very negative. But the most fundamental question that I've been asked, right, is why are you doing this? Why are you doing it? Why are you an entrepreneur? So
I'm an entrepreneur myself.
Right? So if you look at it from that perspective, so let's just think through that. In a typical entrepreneurship, business school, entrepreneurship context, the correct answer is because I want to create value or wealth or innovation. Both of those things. I have an idea which is different. I've got something new, and I think it can create significant value. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. Now, in social entrepreneurship, people say, okay, how are you balancing that with the social good? Are you doing this to make money, or are you doing this to make social impact? I'm doing it for both. Which one is more? Is it more money? That's not the solution to that, because social commercial is not a trade-off, right? Most entrepreneurs do it because they have a passion for something. So what's your passion for? What do you really want to change? What do you want to do? Someone here, I think Papa Anand mentioned this, you have to really love what you do. So every day you wake up and you have a certain passion for that subject. And yes, in the process of that, both of those things are there. You forsake income, you forsake a lot of things, obviously so that you can create value and wealth, right? And there's nothing wrong in that awareness, and you need that for sustainability also. Unless you create value, you're not going to be able to grow or create scale, which is an imperative in India, in a large country. So the question is, are you greedy? What's your personal values? Once you create that scale, that value, are you going to extract it for yourself or dividend it out or whatever, or are you going to reinvest it back in the system? And right now, there's no checks and balances for that. It's just the individual promoters, ethics and values, and, you know, and do you trust that person? So social entrepreneurship is a very, very ill-defined thing. I disagree with folks who say it's only based on impact and we just do the sustainability to the extent that's required. No, it is entrepreneurship. So you have to focus primarily on the sustainability and realize you're doing it because you have that social passion. And once you create that value, then that value can be distributed in not just extracting it for yourself.
I mean, maybe I think I can put it in a statement if I say so. In the good times, I think the business, the money will drive. In the bad times, I think your passion for it will drive. Maybe, yeah.
Maybe we can take 2 more and then we should
go. Sorry, sir. The man in the black coat. Yeah, I didn't remember your name. Yeah, man in black. I just want to ask that you do the motivation classes for children, but don't you think there should be a consultation classes for parents also? Because after all, the children has to go home and he has to go in the same environment.
Absolutely, amen. And I'll tell you this, anytime I work with children, my belief is this, I work with schools, I don't just come in and do one-off. I don't believe in just a pump-up session, everyone feels good, then they go home and they hug and nothing else. I believe in sustainable change. So when I work with kids, I work with parents, I work with teachers, and I empower the children to be the creators of their own change. My youngest leader of laughter is a 5-year-old boy in Hong Kong who used to have ADD, is off Ritalin, all that stuff. He's in Hong Kong. He goes every Saturday with his mother to teach other 5-year-old children. And the mother's there to sustain that.
Yeah. So thank you. Great job you are doing.
Thank you.
My question to Papa CJ. मैं आपका नाम समझना चाहूँगा, ये पापा सीजे थोड़ा सा मेरे को अजीब नाम लगा, इसके पीछे क्या कहानी है?
When you sign a check, you'll find out.
अच्छा, thank you.
So I have a question, last one, right? And this is to Karthik. Karthik, while going through your presentation, I think so the meat which we could understand from the presentation was that you're collecting a heartbeat of what our country is through a lot of data which is offline and online. You mentioned this Maslow model. So,
sorry, which model?
Maslow model.
Yes, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yes.
Right. What exactly was this whole, where were you using this Maslow model?
Sure, no, I blew through that, and thank you for just quickly asking that. The point I was just trying to make there was that a lot of the discussions we're having, we have the privilege and the luxury to have that discussion because we're middle class, upper middle class kind of people. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says, and you know, you can definitely speak to this point, that what's the first basic thing? Like a Palestinian friend of mine once in New York told me that when I walk out of my house, you know, I feel like someone's going to beat me on the head with a rifle. So that's all I care about. So you're never going to convince me to be friendly with your Jewish friends because I have this rage in me. So fine, so then no one is beating you up, you're not dying. Then it's, you know, you need food and shelter, right? Then you have to make sure that you have basic social interaction, you're not being bullied and so on. So there's different levels of it. So that was my point, that when you're asking questions of people, it's nice to ask here, but what if someone is, you know, starving? What if someone is psychologically disturbed? Obviously you have to know that in order to have
So are you considering that into a analytical model which you're making?
We are. So what we're hoping to do is, I mean, look, I mean, there's only so much you can do. So we capture demographic info. We are going to have Myers-Briggs assessments available. So people can do that, and then we know what kind of personality you are broadly. And finally, we're asking you on social and economic issues. Now, what we're doing is we're also issuing you a Bharat number, a bid number, Bharat ID we call it. So that's an offline tracking. So when you come to a JBC, let's say Anand is doing some workshops there, okay, and 10 of the customers come with their bid numbers, they register and they go through the workshop, and Anand tells me that, okay, people 2, 3, and 4 have this issue. So that can also be put into the system. So that's theoretical right now, but we are building the system to do that, and that's what I was trying to show, that this is just very much at the first level. You know, ideally, if you really want to truly sort of have your pulse on the people, then you need a nice sample, and you need to sort of know everything about them, what their psychology is, what they think about social issues, and what they're actually doing. Are they doing what they're saying? I can't measure that. It's just what you tell me. So
right, fair enough, fair enough. In fact, I would encourage you to please share this progress or whatever the model you're making online, so that there's tons of smart people who can help you out with such.
Certainly, and the idea is to be an open platform. So we're launching in the end of this month, and yeah, I mean, the website is going to be going live very soon. So thank you.
Good.
I'll just it's fascinating work, because one of the first things that's missing is data in India. We have very high level macro data that we all quote and we all like to talk about, like, oh, you know, 67% of India is below 35 and all. We don't really know what is the heartbeat of that macro level data. And I think that's really, really, really important. Absolutely, absolutely. Because what will really make the next generational change is not the number of people who are going to be sitting with us, but the quality and the aspirations of these people. That's going to be, and I think that's fascinating work.
And I just want to add to that as well. I think the key is also, when it comes to data, when it comes to getting that, it's easy to try and influence people. But I have a golden rule. You cannot influence anyone that you don't understand and appreciate first. And I believe when you can understand someone's model of the world, when you can see where they're coming from, their needs, their values, all those things, then you have the power to influence them.
Yeah, and it's a funny story, but you know, somewhere we've screwed up on that Maslow's pyramid, because at some point we throw in something that's actually not there as a need, but for example, like, you know, if you go all over rural India, in some of the pockets, mostly the coal mining pockets, you'll always find Raj Darbar Gutka. You know? And what I find as a business guy is that Raj Darbar Gutka, or like chewing tobacco, has the best business model ever for supply chain, ever, right? And it's sad because that's been aspirationally put forward as an escape route, and the business is followed and innovated so well that that reaches the last mile, whereas there's no electricity there, there's no running water, there's no bathroom. So understanding really what the situation is half the game is done, because then coming up with the product is not the most difficult thing. The most difficult thing is understanding what it helps. So, good job.
Are we done? Last question.
All five of you are passionate about what you do. Humor, social entrepreneurship, motivation, dance. All of you have in some way or the other been involved not only in urban areas but also in rural areas. Subject today in a way is about change. What is your observation, Rama ma'am, for you and ladies, and after that the rest of you? What is your observation? Are the people in the rural area more receptive to change, or aspiring to change, or eager for change, as compared to, because we are all of you, including me, are from an urban background and also going into the rural sector?
I think people in rural areas are more innocent, so they change easily. But whether they want to change or not, that is the big question. So once that is done with, then they change easily. But the first question is whether they feel like changing. Like, for example, a woman whose husband is asking to produce a boy, and every time she has a girl, he asks her to abort. Now the question is, yes, she doesn't want to abort, But the question is, does she want to raise her voice? Does she want to? So it is this, the thing that we need to instill in them first is that they must change, that they want to change. And it's only after that then the change can take place. But that is not a problem in urban areas. I think urban areas, everybody reads and everybody has access, so much of access. Everybody knows exactly what they want to do and what they don't want to do. So in a way, it is easy, in a way it is difficult. It's just actually how you tackle them.
I have a slightly divergent view about it. I mean, when we talk about change, it's like, in a country like India, it's like a bride. There are too many suitors for rural India right now. I mean, that's the truth. That's like a swamvar. So a lot of people ask me, like, do they want to change? Do they want lighting? Do they want clean? I mean, they're just happy the way it is. But my thing is, if I don't sell this, there's Vedanta which is going to go and kick you out of your land because you don't read and write well. And that's a fact. So people are reaching